Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to give you an overview of what's known as the classified balance sheet. Now, you might already be familiar with what's known as the unclassified balance sheet. That is a simple version of the balance sheet that simply displays assets, liabilities, shareholders' equity with subtotals, and that's it. The classified balance sheet is not all that much different other than the fact that it adds some subcategories that it classifies your assets and liabilities into, and it also establishes a certain order of presentation for the accounts that are in it. So let's take a look at just an overview of this. Here we go. Your classified balance sheet, essentially the idea here is certain assets are similar to other assets, and therefore for the assets that are similar to one another, they should be grouped together. Same with liabilities. Certain liabilities are similar to each other, and therefore they should be grouped together. And what this does is this ends up resulting in 4 groupings of assets and 2 groupings of liabilities, as you see written down the right side of this example, which comes from Bed Bath & Beyond. The first set of assets is called current assets. The second set is called long-term investments. The third is called property, plant, and equipment. And the fourth is called intangibles. Current assets are assets that are due within, in general, 1 year. All right. So anything, sorry, I say due. I meant to say current assets are things you expect to benefit or derive value from within 1 year, or things that are highly liquid within 1 year. And so anything that has that characteristic of, oh, this is an asset that is likely to be put into use, generate value for the company within 1 year, that all kind of gets grouped together in current assets. Long-term investments, as you might suspect, are those assets that have the same characteristics as the current assets, but they expect to go longer than a year prior to their use. Property, plant, and equipment, also known as PP&E, is the collection of your giant physical large dollar value assets, your buildings, your equipment, your land, your vehicles, so forth and so on. And then intangible assets are the remaining assets you have that don't have any tangible substance to them. They don't have a physical substance. They're just a collection of rights bestowed by legal systems, so forth and so on. So that's your 4 categories of assets, and of course I'm not going into much detail in this video because it's just an overview. I will have other videos where I go into detail into each and every one of these sections and tell you all about what shows up in there. Once we go through our asset breakdown, we enter our liability breakdown, and you'll notice for liabilities there are actually only 2 sections to worry about: current liabilities, long-term liabilities. And luckily, as you might suspect, there's consistency in naming here. Just as current assets are the assets you expected to generate value within a year, current liabilities are the debts you expect to pay within a year. Just like long-term investments were basically the assets you expect to generate value, but they'll last longer than a year, long-term liabilities are the debts that you expect to pay beyond 1 year. There are no special classifications for current liabilities like there are for assets, such as PP&E and intangibles. Liabilities fall into one of these 2 categories because at the end of the day, they're all debts. It's just a matter of when do you expect to pay it. And then you'll notice shareholders' equity does not have any subclassifications. So when you enter a classified balance sheet coming from an unclassified balance sheet, the only thing that changes is your assets are broken up into 4 sections, your liabilities are broken up into 2 sections. All of those sections should get their own subtotals. Shareholders' equity remains the same. There's no additional breakdown. So that's it. That's our overview of the classified balance sheet, but I will make videos on the various subcategories and the details that go into those subcategories, so I hope you join me for those.